First, I want to, on behalf of my family, and three of them are back here, and the other two are lost, my wife and my oldest daughter, Mrs. Ross, and my youngest daughter, Peggy, my son, Michael, and my son, Barry, who is busy working in Los Angeles. I want to welcome you to Arizona and welcome you to Benunikin. Benunikin in Navajo means house on the top of the hill. Ever since the last Republican convention, thousands of Americans have asked me to seek the Republican presidential nomination in 1964. Now, I've withheld a decision until now, not to be politically coy, but because I've been giving every aspect of such a decision the most serious consideration. Today, here at our home, in the state that I love, with my family and with the people whose friendship and political interest have placed me where I am, I want to tell you two things. First, I want to tell you that I will seek the Republican presidential nomination. And I've decided to do this because of the principles in which I believe and because I'm convinced that millions of Americans share my belief in those principles. I've decided to do this also because I have not heard from any announced Republican candidate a declaration of conscience or a political position that could possibly offer to the American people a clear choice in the next presidential election. Now, one of the great attributes of our American two-party system has always been the reflected differences in principle. As a general rule, one party has emphasized individual liberty and the other has favored the extension of government power. I am convinced that today a majority in the Republican Party believes in the essential emphasis on individual liberty. Now, I've been spelling out my position for 10 years in the Senate and for years before that here in my own state. Now, I'll spell it out even further in the months to come. Back in the first senatorial campaign that I engaged in, I was asked by a very prominent member of the press in this state, "What kind of a Republican are you?" And I replied that I was not a Me Too Republican, and this still holds. I won't change my beliefs to win votes. I will offer a choice, not an echo. This will not be an engagement of personalities. It will be an engagement of principles. I've always stood for government that is limited and balanced and against ever-increasing concentrations of authority in Washington. I've always stood for individual responsibility and against regimentation. I believe we must now make a choice in this land and not continue drifting endlessly down toward a time when all of us, all of our lives, our property, our hopes, and even our prayers will become just cogs in a vast government machine. I believe that we can win victory for freedom both at home and abroad. And I believe that we can be strong enough and determined enough to win those victories without war. And I believe that appeasement and weakness can only bring war. I have asked, and I will continue to ask across this country, why not victory? Why not victory for sound constitutional principles in government? Why not victory over the evils of communism? I am convinced that in this year of 1964, we must face up to our conscience and make a definite choice. We must decide what sort of people we are and what sort of a world we want, now and for our children. My candidacy is pledged to a victory for principle and to presenting an opportunity for the American people to choose. Let there be a choice, right now and in clear, understandable terms. And I ask all those who feel and believe as I do to join with me in assuring both the choice and the victory. Now, the second thing I wanted to tell you is that I will continue with all my strength to work for America and for Arizona in my service in the Senate. I have previously announced that I will file for re-election to the Senate, and I find no incompatibility in these two candidacies. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, if you have some questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them in the few moments that we have. When will I begin it? I'm going to Grand Rapids, Michigan, Monday night next for a fundraising speech. You might say that would be the start of it. I'll probably go to New Hampshire. No, not this week. Next week, yes.
Senator, what primary contest?
I wished I could give you an answer completely to that. I can't. I will have to file for Illinois by January the 27th, and I would intend to do that. I will file for New Hampshire. I'm definitely going into California. I'm already entered in Oregon. There are situations revolving around favorite sons that may have some effect upon what other primaries I go into, but I couldn't give you a complete categorical answer now because I don't know.
If you get the nomination, are you going to drop the Senate and file it?
I'll have to cross that bridge when I get to it. Frankly, we have an unusual situation in this state in that we file for nomination a few days before the Republican convention, and then the primary isn't until the second Tuesday in September. So I can't cross that bridge till I get to it, and I don't know what my friends would do about it. It's way too early to say.
Senator, will you debate Rockefeller in New Hampshire?
I don't see any reason for Republicans to debate each other, but it'll undoubtedly wind up in some kind of a debate, either by the press or face-to-face or anything like that. We see what happens.
Senator, in the 60 campaign, you were critical about Lyndon Johnson's double candidacy. How do you, what do you do with your old speech and all that?
Well, of course, if the opposition had been anybody else, I would have had to have been careful. But when the teacher himself is running, I would like to be a rather good student.
Senator?
Yes. I don't know where his private car is today. No, I talked with General Eisenhower, it's way back in September, but it was an entirely different subject. It had no bearing on this at all.
Senator,
I don't know how he feels.
Could you comment
His brother's for me, I know that.
Could you comment on the influence high school and college students have had on the rise of your political fortune?
The young people have had a very decided influence on my decision. I'd say probably more than any other one factor, because these young people are interested in conservatism, and I felt that if I didn't make myself available, they might become discouraged, might not vote, and if you don't vote your first time, your chances are you won't vote the next time. And I think that had the biggest factor of any. No, the governor just found out about my decision about 10 minutes ago, and I haven't had a chance to visit with Paul. I've never tried to influence what he wants to do, and I think he's the best governor we've ever had. I wouldn't want to change his mind.
Senator, how does the economy drive affect the government campaign?
Well, if he had a real economy drive going, it'd be all right, but he saved about $500 million in 2 weeks and signed bills that will eventually cost $8 billion. One educational bill that Kennedy, well, let's put it the other way, President Kennedy got 15 times more than he asked for, and Johnson had a chance to be a real economizer and veto it, but he didn't do it. So when he shows some signs of real, sincere economizing, I'll say, cheer, cheer, let's go. But so far, he's only fooling the public.
How do you feel about Castro relaxation? He mentioned he wanted relaxation of relations or more normal relations. How do you feel about Castro?
Castro, I haven't changed any on him, and I don't think we ought to relax our relations with him. We ought to get a little tougher with him.
Senator, do you have any preference for vice presidential running mates?
No, only thing I'm looking for now are delegates.
Senator, you concede, sir, that the assassination of the president did hurt your chances in the South.
Oh, I think you'd have to be honest and say that it would. You have now a president who is a Southerner. At least he calls himself a Southerner. That's going to have an effect because the chairman of the committees are mostly Southerners, and they want to be in with the president. But I want to wait and hear the State of the Union message next week, and I think then we can take a reassessment and many more reassessments. I'm not surprised about anything that's happened. His great popularity at the present time. After all, we've had a moratorium that we Republicans very carefully observed, and we tried to help him, and we will try to help him. As I told the group inside, I'd like him to be the greatest president we ever had. And if the Republican influence on him can make him that, I'll be glad for it. That's the position that parties should take.
But isn't a Southern victory for you essential to your national victory?
I don't buy that, and I don't buy that the South will necessarily go with a Southerner. The South will not be won on the old issues. It'll be won on economic issues and on conservative economic issues more than anything else.
Senator, what's your position on civil rights going to be?
Pardon?
What's your position on civil rights going to be?
Well, I won't change my position on civil rights. I've stated it many, many times. Continue to carry that way.
When did you make your decision to run, Senator?
What?
When did you make your decision to run?
Oh, my golly, about 10 days ago.
Would you assess for us your estimate of the relative strength of the various candidates for the Republican nomination?
That's a pretty hard thing to do, and if anything I would say would just be coming off the top of the head, so to speak. I've enjoyed a lead for the same reason that Nixon did. I've been identified with party workers all over the country as a party worker, as one interested in party unity. In 7 years of speaking, I've traveled over 1 million miles and been in every state in the Union. In fact, I counted up the other day, I've made over 200 speeches in New York City. I've met practically every worker in the Republican Party, so they would naturally incline towards a person like that, not that it's me. Now, Rockefeller still has to accomplish that. Nixon has to rebuild it. Romney has to accomplish it, and so does Scranton. Whether it can be done in 6 or 7 months, I don't know.
You consider Mr. Lodge a potential candidate?
Yes, I consider anybody who's visited Mr. Eisenhower in the last 2 weeks a potential candidate. What? Well, I happen to be a firm believer in the common market, but I don't think we're going about it right, and I'll spell that out in subsequent talks. Yes.
What do you believe will be the major issues this year?
I think the condition of the economy, high spending of the government, high taxes, and foreign policy, unless Johnson changes the foreign policy to strengthen NATO, to strengthen our position in the world vis-a-vis communism.
Senator, if you should fail to get the nomination, would you, under any circumstances, consider second spot on the ticket?
No. I'd rather be a senator than a vice president.
Senator,
Yes.
I come from northwestern North Dakota, where everyone is dependent upon the income from small farms. What is your position on the present, what do you think about the present farm program, and what would you do to better it, or do you agree with the present administration?
Well, I don't think the present agricultural program has been working. I don't think it's worked since the war. Particularly, it hasn't worked for the small farmer. Now, your big wheat farmers up in that country are doing pretty good on this farm program.
Big wheat farmers.
Well, up in that general area. The small farmer is not benefiting by this program any place. I have advocated getting the farmers back under the operation of the marketplace and getting government gradually out of their hair. Yes, it can't be done overnight.
What is your opinion of the reduction of military bases and further cuts in the military budget from the standpoint of both security and economy?
Well, as far as the bases are concerned, I've been urging the Air Force, particularly because of my connection with it, to close the bases that they didn't need. I had hoped during the Eisenhower years that bases would be closed that were not needed. And I think the step that Secretary McNamara took was a wise one, and I think there'll probably be some more closings. As far as a reduction of the defense budget, I won't argue that that can't be done, and I think you'll find it about $1 billion less this year than it was last year.
Senator, was it basic in your decision to run that you could poll at least 45% of the popular vote so that your conservative movement would not be condemned?
Yeah, that was one of the factors, that I felt that if I were beaten and didn't lose by more than the magic 5, 55, 45, which direction you approach it, that this would not harm the conservative movement, would actually help it. And the closer we could get to even Stephen, the better it would be. And I feel that that will happen.
Senator, which Eisenhower brother are you referring to as being for you? Dr. Milton?
No, I've never met Milton. Edgar in Tacoma.
Senator, without President Eisenhower's support, do you really feel that you have a fair chance of gaining the Republican nomination?
It's going to be a real tough go. I'm not going in this thing with any dream. I think it's going to be a very difficult thing for a Westerner from a small state, population-wise, to get the nomination, but I think it's time that we give the Republicans a choice other than the Eastern Seaboard or the Western Seaboard. And I'm willing to take that chance. Eisenhower's help, Nixon's help, everybody's help's needed for a Republican. We're the small party in this country.
Do you think your decision will have any effect on any decision Mr. Nixon might have?
No, I couldn't answer that. I haven't seen Dick since he was in Phoenix during the convention, during the campaign in 1960. And I don't have any idea what his thoughts are.
Senator, would you advocate any major changes in our present commitment to Europe?
Only, as I related earlier, I would be firmer in our relations to NATO. I think this is the greatest machine for peace that we've ever put together, and I'd hate to see it degenerate and fall apart because of lack of attention on our part. I have a paper on this whole subject that I hope will be out within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Senator, if you get the Republican nomination, do you plan to conduct an active campaign in Texas, or will you concede it to LBJ?
I don't concede anybody anything. I'm a Republican who's won in a Democratic state, and Democrats don't know what a dogfight is till they do something like that. Yes, how are you?
Good.
Jolly good to see you.
Do you still stand firm in your position that should the presidential nomination not be forthcoming, you would agree to go on as vice president?
No, I would not agree. No. I'd much rather be in the Senate.
Senator, what affection, if any, do you desire to give to the UN in the scheme of things?
Well, again, in this paper that I mentioned, I'll spell out my position there very clearly. I have never opposed the United Nations. I asked the question, what United Nations are we talking about? The one that we planned under the Charter, or the one that we're operating under today, where we violated at least 2 of the provisions of the Charter, and where we allow participating nations to vote without paying their dues? I frankly think it's time we have another Charter meeting and try to bring the thing up to date. The only time I would be serious about withdrawing would be if Red China were admitted under the present ground rules.
Have you got a campaign manager yet, Senator?
Yes, I have, just happen to have one. As you all know, Denison Kitchell is general director of the campaign organization, and Dean Birch, who is a lawyer from Tucson and a former administrative assistant of mine in Washington, is assistant general director, and Richard Kleindienst, that's Kleindienst, and I'm going to get him to change that. Dick was a former state chairman in Arizona, and he accepted last night the director of field operations for the whole country. You all know Tony Smith, who's been with me for years, and Ed McCabe in Washington is director of research. And I'm very happy to announce that yesterday Mrs. Emery Johnson, we know her as Ann Eve Johnson here, was former National Committee woman, is director of women's activities for the whole country. That's my staff as it goes right today, and I'm very happy with it.
Kitchell's top man.
Kitchell is, we call him the honcho out here. He's the head honcho.
Senator, may we have the second name, the one you gave after Kitchell?
Dean Birch. That's not related to John Birch. B-U-R-C-H. Dean. Assistant General Director of Campaign Organization.
Will you take a stand vis-a-vis the John Birch Society as Nixon did in his campaign?
Any organization that wants to overthrow our government by violence or treason, I'll take a stand against. And I see no reason to take a stand against any organization just because they're using their constitutional prerogatives, even though I disagree with most of them. Well, I've said for some time I think they need overhauling. They're rather antiquated. It takes too long to operate. Hello, Tom. How are you, rascal? Saw your grandson the other day.
What do you consider your strength in California?
All of it. My family moved to California 110 114 years ago from England, and we lived up in the Sonora country. And my father was born in Los Angeles. I have one son that was born there. He won't admit it, but he was. And I have a daughter that was born in California. We maintained a home in La Jolla for many years. I have a lot of friends in California, and I think we can do well over there.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Now, we have coffee and sandwiches some day. What the hell is that?